Greetings, African family. Greetings in the honorable spirit of our great and mighty African ancestors. Welcome to episode 31 of Clear Thinking with Brother Dulani. In this episode, I would like to address the issue of economic and political responsibility. Recently, I was listening to it was a live broadcast, a live show, and it was a call-in session, and there was a European, I think it was an Englishman, calling the show and said, boy, him have a problem because every time him raise the English flag or the British flag, people accuse him of being a racist, even though he doesn't have anything to do with what happened 100 years ago. He never had nothing to do with what happened in the past, and he's not responsible. And he's been accused of racist. He can't be just a British. He can't be an English. Something wrong for him to be white. He's get accused just for being white. He's get accused of being like a racist. Anyway, I wanted to call in, but the line was whole. It was packed. So I couldn't get to address it. And there was so many people on there, but no one seems to be able to address this man. And why there is issues with African people today and those the descendants of the enslavers, the descendants of the imperialists, those who have inherited the power and the wealth of the imperialists, wealth that was ill-gotten through the exploitation and enslavement of African people and other indigenous people around the world. Somehow, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect with Europeans today and what they have inherited. They seem to don't want to take responsibility for the fact that they have inherited the power and the wealth that was gained, that was reaped from the enslavement and colonization of African people. So even though you were not around 100 years ago or even 50 years ago, because one of the things they're trying to do is trying to frame this argument as if it's a long time ago. Many countries in Africa was only got liberated in the 70s and 80s. That's just the other day in our lifetime. See, not just a long time ago. It's an ongoing issue with our people. And that's why we have a struggle called the reparative justice movement around the world, demanding reparation for what they have done to our people and what they continue to do to our people. Because you cannot now say you want to opt out of the game, because now, after you have inherited all this wealth and power, then you want to take yourself out and play innocent. Well, if you want to opt out, you need to return the wealth that you have gotten. You need to repair the damage that was done in the pursuit of the wealth and the power that you have inherited today. That's the only way you're going to be able to opt out of this situation, this demand for justice. So you have to take responsibility for the economic and political inequality and injustice that exists today, because it is the same system that you inherit that have created the economic and political injustice that we have today in the world, and the exploitation of people and resources, not to mention the human toll, the brutality, the dehumanization, the inhumane treatment of African people and other indigenous people around the world by the forces of imperialism, under the skies of white supremacy, under the guise of whiteness, that all play a role. Because the imperialists, them use racism, they use whiteness, and they use religion, And they use all these tools at their disposal in order to advance the exploitation and the extraction of resources from Africans and Africa and other indigenous places around the world. And now they want to play innocent. They want to play like they had nothing to do with it. But the structure still exists. The system that created this calamity around the world, the system that created the degradation and the discrimination and the marginalization of African people, it still exists. And these people today who are in power, who are living today, are the inheritors of that system. And as inheritors of this system, they have a responsibility. If they truly want justice, they'll be redistributing the wealth. And they will be addressing the damage that was caused by this system to the psychology, to the culture, to the economics and the politics of African people. So my response to the European would be, take responsibility for your role. Some of the Europeans don't even want to acknowledge the fact that the system that they've inherited have damaged people. And the system can be corrected. The system can be restructured. And in many cases, it can be abolished and a new system can be built based on social and economic and political justice, where everybody is taken care of. All nations can get access to wealth and resources, where African people can be left to live in independence and sovereignty to take care of their own destiny without the interference of imperialism and the returning of the wealth that was taken from Africa, returning of the artifacts that was taken from Africa, and the return of African people to Africa. These are some of the things that are the demand of the reparative justice movement, because it is the movement that is calling for the redistribution of wealth in this time. And I think everyone should understand that. And African people have to understand that. We cannot get caught up in any distortion. We cannot get caught up in any illusion and fantasy. It is very clear what has happened to our people. It is well documented the extent to which the Europeans have came into Africa and have exploited African people and have divided up African people and have enslaved African people and transported African people around the globe and brutalized them, with all manner of degrading treatment. That is a fact. And we today are the result of that damage in all our forms and shapes. We all have a level of damage, whether physically or psychologically or culturally. But we got tremendous amount of issue, and especially economically. Almost every generation of African people in the last probably 10 generations are starting from zero. It's only a handful that is really advancing. The vast majority of our people are starting over generation after generation. And this is the legacy of enslavement, a legacy of colonization, when the whole legacy of enslavement is where all the wealth is being transferred to one set of people, one class of people, mainly the European, the capitalist class. They have been the inheritors of the wealth of the labor of African people and other indigenous people. So as a result of that, that needs to be addressed. That needs to be dealt with. And we need to have a strong struggle, a strong movement that will compel the powers that be, compel those who claim that they are goodwill and that they have the best interests of the people at heart, to now look into themselves and to willing to pass laws, enact laws and legislation into place to correct the damage that they have done. So that is what and how I would respond to this whole idea of taking responsibility for what has happened to our people, and for Europeans who feel that they are innocent. They need to compel their existing government and convince their people that they need to address this issue of reparation and be willing to share the wealth and willing to redistribute wealth and power to those that it was taken from. Or they will be compelled to do so at some stage in our history. So yes, my people, I just want to say thank you for listening to this episode 31 of our Clear Thinking with Brother Dulani. I want us to just be clear about what we are saying here. You know what I mean? No one should escape responsibility for what has happened to our people. But we are very clear that we demand reparative justice. The wealth and the power must be redistributed. The system must be restructured and must be transformed from a system of exploitation to a system where all of humanity is taken care of, where all people are looked after, where the path for success is guaranteed to everyone, not just a few. You know, because a handful of people have inherited a lot of wealth and a lot of power. Is disproportionate amount of wealth and power from the exploitation of our people. And we are not blind to that. And we're not going to ignore that. And we're not going to be silent about that. That is for sure. So I want to thank you, my people, for listening to me, and be clear. Don't be sidetracked. Don't be distracted by any argument, you know, where people talk about, oh, it wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it. You have inherited that wealth and that power, and you need to pressure your own people and the system to pass legislation, to take action, to address the wrong that was done to other people, because we have inherited the damage that was done to our ancestors, and you have inherited the wealth and the power that came from the degradation and the exploitation and the enslavement of our people. So that is the perspective, and that is the way we have to approach this. I want to thank you once again in the spirit of Mahat Otep. I want to thank you for listening to this program. Do continue to subscribe to this broadcast. Do continue to like and share it and leave a comment, and we can discuss anything further and we can address this issue. There's more discussion coming. And hopefully, eventually we can go live and we can have a community discussion and we can have more clear thinking with Brother Dulani. So thank you once again, my family. Ashe, Otep, Wa Good. Respect.